Acts. It's the beginning of the early Christians, the church. We heard the first sermons, we witnessed the first miracle. Now is the first persecution that the church, the early Christian, experienced. So I want to start by asking this. Have you any fear in your life? What is it that you are afraid of in your life? Some people are afraid of spiders, others of cockroaches, others fear of heights, can't stand heights, or perhaps being in the dark alone. But there are some other fears that are more serious, like the fear of death, the fear of being poor. Some people are afraid of being poor and have no money. Now, we're in this book of Acts, looking at the early church. They were mostly poor people. The early church are mostly poor people. They're the outcasts. And they were also, not only they're poor, the early church, the early Christians, not only they're poor, they were also facing the threat of persecution and death every day. That's the early church. Those are the Christians that we are reading in the book of Acts. So the very thing that many people today are afraid of, being poor, not having anything, not having earthly possessions, and the threat of dying, these are reality for early Christians that they have to face every day. So that's what it is, you know. But the beauty is this, they were not afraid. There's not a hint of fear of being poor, not having anything, or not having much, or dying. Now we read today what we read just now from the book of Acts chapter 4. It's about the Peter and John, the apostles Peter and John. They were arrested and being thrown into prison, into jail. And this is just the beginning of many persecutions as we journey in the book of Acts that we will see together. This is just, the first one. So what did they do? Why aren't they afraid? And what can we learn from them? Is what we're going to look at. But we're going to look at from three headings that are perhaps help us understand. So the first heading we're going to look at is the apostles' boldness. That's what we're going to look at. The boldness of the apostles. And the second, the fearfulness of the leaders. And then finally, what must we do as Christians? Okay? We're going to look at the boldness of the apostles, the fearfulness of the leaders, and what must we do as Christians. So first, the apostles' boldness. So some people think boldness is about being aggressive, being violent. When you defend with your muscles, that's being bold. Some people think that. At least that's what I thought when I was a teenager. So I got into fights when I was a teenager, because I thought that's what it means to be brave, to not be afraid. When people look at you the wrong way, you just go there and punch them and say, well, you want to fight me? That's what I thought being bold, being brave is, being violent, being aggressive. Don't judge me, I was a teenager, right? Now for Peter and John though, their boldness is not like that, but got them into trouble nonetheless, right? What is their boldness? What got them into trouble, being arrested and thrown into jail? Simply because they preached the gospel. It has nothing to do with violence. Well, the old Peter was a violent man. When Jesus was about to be arrested, what happened? Take out the sword. The apostle take out the sword to defend Jesus and cut off the servant ear, thinking that that's brave, that's being bold to defend Jesus. But Jesus said, no, that's not how you do it. Jesus picked up the ear that was cut off and put it back on. Jesus is showing them what does it mean to be bold. It's not with violence. It's not with your muscles, not with aggression. And they learned. Now here we read how they've been bold without resorting to being violent and aggressive. Let's look at again verse 1 to 3 and read together. And as they were speaking to the people, the priests and the captain of the temple and the Sadducees came upon them, greatly annoyed, because, now what we are going to read is the reason why they're annoyed, because they were teaching the people and proclaiming in Jesus the resurrection from the dead. And they arrested them and put them in custody until the next day, for it was already evening. So they cannot put people on trial in the evening, it's illegal. And that's precisely what they did to Jesus. If you remember the Jesus story, when Jesus was arrested, they put Jesus on trial in the evening. That was illegal in Jewish law. So this time they learned, they put them in prison, they said like, let's reconvene tomorrow, which is what they did, right? So they were arrested because of what? Of their teaching in chapter 3, with the healing of a lame beggar. So they were arrested because they're proclaiming the gospel, the truth about Jesus' death and resurrection. Their action somehow for proclaiming the gospel triggered the religious and the political leaders in their days. They were annoyed and they were thrown into prison. Why they were annoyed? Why they're so annoyed about this message? Right? Because Peter makes such a claim, as we have read, that there's no one under the earth can be saved apart from in the name of Jesus. Do you see that? And they were annoyed because of that. They're bold to say, if you want to be saved, there's no other way but Jesus. Simple message, isn't it? But yet that got them into trouble. Why? Because this claim to them is very exclusive and outrageous. It's exclusive and outrageous claim that annoy the religious and the political leaders. If you think about it, this is no different to our world today, isn't it? To say that we have the truth because we have Jesus in our life, and what the Bible teaches us is God's word. What's in the Bible is God's word and the truth, and we must obey them. That annoys people today. They say, who are you to tell me that's the only truth? Who tell me you got the truth? Why can't we all get along? We live in a world that is no different to the apostles' world. Our world today, if you claim what the Bible teaches us, the world will be annoyed, will curse you, perhaps in some part of the world will throw you in prison as well. And to be honest, where we are today is not very far off from that. For saying what the Bible teaches may get us into trouble with the authority. Because our claim is exclusive. It's perceived as arrogant. To say that Jesus is the only way, what the Bible teaches is the right way, is perceived as exclusive and arrogant. Now, if you don't trust me, imagine you're walking in the street, on the bus, or on the train, going to work towards the city, and then there's a news crew interviewing commuters. They say, imagine you're on TV, live TV in the morning breakfast, you're on your way to work, and you're being stopped to be interviewed. And they ask you questions like this, about your views about marriage and sex and gender, that is hot topics today. Right? It's a news everywhere today. And they ask you, oh, you're a Christian. Then they say, are you saying that, whatever your name is, right? John, Susan. Since you're a Christian, tell me, Susan or John, are you saying that in 2023, today, you still believe that marriage and sex is just for a man and a woman, and that homosexuals are sin, or homosexuality is sin? Are you saying that they're going to hell for their sin if they don't believe what you believe? What do you say? How would you respond? And I believe this is why some Christians are not actively proclaiming the gospel. Precisely this, because you'll be judged. You'll be excluded. It's all right to be interviewed on the street, maybe, but not for long. It only takes your boss, your manager, your CEO to tune in and listen and hear your view. In our world today, in where we are today, you'll get into trouble. You might lose your job for having a view that is the same as the apostles' view, what the Bible says. This is why I believe many Christians become closet Christian. Perhaps not so closet that they do not know that you're a Christian. Perhaps they know you're Christians, but you just being vague about your belief. They don't know what you believe because you never say anything about your belief. You've gone undercover, secret agent Christian. Now, when the apostles were arrested and thrown into jail, and they were challenged, instead of showing remorse and apologize, recant, they say, oh, no, I've been misquoted. That's not what I meant. Instead of saying that, they doubled down on their proclamation of the gospel. Let's look at verse 10 to 12. Let it be known to all of you, to all the people of Israel, that by the name of Jesus Christ of Nazareth, whom you crucified, whom God raised from the dead, by him this man is standing before you well. He's talking about the lame man. He said, it's not me, it's by the name of Jesus whom you killed. This man is now walking, standing. Jesus is the stone that was rejected by you, the builders, which has become the cornerstone. It's quoting the Old Testament. And there is salvation in no one else, for there is no other name under heaven given among men by which we must be saved. If you believe the Bible is God's word, how do you take that message in your life? Now, is the claim of Christianity exclusive? Yes. But is it intolerant? No. Is it bigotry? Is it unloving? Absolutely not. Quite the opposite. See, don't let people tell you just because you have an exclusive claim how one must be saved, make you intolerant and a bigot. They are two different things. Why do you think the early Christians are not afraid of being killed? Death is still death, whether it's 2,000 years ago or today. Death by violence is still death by violence, whether it was 2,000 years or today. It's the same. If you get hanged 2,000 years ago, you get hanged today, it's the same thing. Why do you think then the early Christians are not afraid? It says in the passage, it's because they have seen, they have heard, they experienced Jesus. They say they cannot deny that. They say, we've seen the Lord, we heard him, we experienced him. Now, as far as they're concerned, the death and the resurrection of Jesus is enough. And for them to not proclaim it, to not say it, to not tell the world about it, that is unloving. See, that's what they thought, you see. In our world today, when you don't proclaim what the Bible teaches, we don't do that in the name of tolerance, of being loving to our neighbor. We do not want to offend anyone. Yet they did exactly the opposite in the name of being loving towards them. So when they proclaim the truth, they're loving them. So Christianity has been accused of being arrogant and being exclusive for claiming that Jesus is the only way. And that's from the beginning of Christianity. See, in those days, during the Greek and Romans period, they believed all sort of gods. Christians are the atheists, you see. Because Christians only believe in one God when, the Greek and the Romans believe in, well, there's gods in everywhere. What do you mean you only worship one God? It's a strange religion to them. To them, Christians are the atheists. So they say, you Christians, you can believe wherever you want to believe that Jesus is God. That is fine, as long as you don't claim exclusivity that he's the only one. They're happy with that because they have so many gods. Different temples worship different gods. But Peter and John and early Christians, the apostles, do not want to have anything to do with that. So there's only one true way. There's only one true God, and his name is Jesus. If you want to be saved, it's only through Jesus Christ. And our modern day approach to this view of being tolerant of the exclusive claim of Christianity is what we use the analogy of the elephant. Perhaps you've heard this. The analogy of the elephant. Have you heard about the blind man encountered an elephant? So let me tell you about this a little bit, right? So several blind men were walking and encountered an elephant for the first time. Each feels different parts of the elephant, trying to understand what is an elephant. They've never seen one, never touched one. They're blind. And the first man holding the elephant's trunk said, I know what elephant's like. It's like a snake. It's skinny and long. The second man holding the elephant's leg said, no. Elephant is round, like a tree trunk. Yet the third man holding the elephant's side says, no, guys. Surely elephant, it's flat and big. So each of them could feel only part of the elephant, each of the blind men. And in the same way, it is argued the religions of the world today each have a grasp of a different part of spiritual reality or spiritual truth. But none can actually see and feel the whole elephant, the whole truth. The point is this, that they're happy for Christians to say, well, you feel like to go to heaven to experience God, to know him is through Jesus. That's fine. Perhaps you're feeling the leg part. There are other people who touch the same elephant and see different truth in that. And that's okay. So the world tells us that's being inclusive, being tolerant. Now there are problems with this analogy. And Rebecca McLaughlin, in her book Confronting Christianity, outlined 7 problems with this illustration. I'm going to give you one big problem, though, with this illustration. This illustration assumes the point of view of someone who is not blind. That's a big assumption, isn't it? This illustration assumes the point of view of someone who is not blind. To be able to say that each whole different part has the assumption. There's someone who actually sees the whole part, isn't it? That's a big, big assumption. How can anyone then claim that each of the blind men only sees part of the elephant unless you claim to be able to see the whole thing? Who is that person who is able to see the whole thing? It's the very person that judged us Christian, you Christian, as being a bigot and intolerant. Because they can see the whole picture, you can only see the little thing. And to say that you, being Christian, proclaiming God's truth, being intolerant, the very person who accused you of that is being intolerant towards you. How can anyone possibly know that no religion can see the truth unless they themselves who accuse you of being exclusive, they themselves have the superior and comprehensive knowledge of spiritual reality or truth. And they claim no one else can. You certainly can't, Christians, but I can, because I'm not a bigot, because I'm not intolerant. You see what that is? You see what that person is doing? That person is making an exclusive claim. The very thing that he accused you of making an exclusive claim. Say, your claim is exclusive? No. Their claim is exclusive because they say you don't have the whole picture. But they do. They accuse of Christianity as arrogant. What is arrogant? That is arrogant. They say that you don't know the truth, but we do. See, to say nobody should make an exclusive claim is making an exclusive claim. To say nobody should decide that they have absolute truth is making an absolute statement. Don't you see that? When they accuse anyone, they say you don't have an exclusive or absolute truth or claim, what do you think they're making? They're making an absolute statement. They're making an absolute claim. Otherwise, their statement accusing you of having, being a bigot and being exclusive, their statement is what? Arbitrary, relative. May have no grounding at all. But that's not what they think. They think they have the absolute truth and knowledge. Now, my point is this, in my first point is this. Everyone is making an absolute exclusive claims. Everyone. Those people who accuse Christians of making those claims, they themselves make those claims. Now, early Christians know that they are to be bold in proclaiming the truth, following Jesus' footsteps. But they also, but the question is this: why there are so many Christians today are afraid, especially in this part of the world, where you proclaiming God's truth, the gospel, you will not be arrested and being beheaded. In this part of the world, at least, or hanged. In some part of the world, yes. Right? We all heard the news probably about 10 years ago, even less. In some part of the world, Christians were arrested. They were lined up by the beach. They record this and actually send the videos out on the internet. And they asked them to deny Jesus, and when they refused, they beheaded each of them for proclaiming that Jesus is Lord and Savior, and for refusing to apologize or to recant what they say. But today, in our world today, where we live today, you won't experience that. Perhaps your friend will not like you anymore. Perhaps they will unfriend you on Facebook, on Instagram. They will block you on their phone. Perhaps you might lose your job. But why are so many of us then so afraid today? And that leads us to the second point, the fearfulness of the leaders. So the disciples of Jesus, the apostles, they were bold in proclaiming. They doubled down even though they're being threatened. They were arrested. They doubled down. The irony is this. The apostles were in this case, they were the uneducated ones They were the one who were arrested. They were the one who were being questioned by the authorities, by the educated one, by the one who is not in jail, yet they're the one who are afraid. Not the ones who were arrested, not the apostles. It's quite the irony. The religious and political leaders were not only annoyed, but they were afraid of Peter and John and the message that they carry with them. That's why they threatened them to shut up. They are threats, you see. As far as the leaders, political leaders and religious leaders are concerned, Peter and John, these two uneducated men, were a threat to them, the educated, the one in power. Quite an irony. Now look at this, verse 13. Now when they saw the boldness of Peter and John and perceived that they were uneducated, common men, they were astonished. They were amazed. And they recognized that they had been with Jesus. And they draw a conclusion as to why these common, uneducated men were not afraid even when they're being threatened, arrested, and thrown into jail. And their conclusion is because they've been with Jesus. Now, many Christians today, we are afraid because we know a lot about Jesus, but we've never been with Jesus. I'm not talking about physically being with Jesus 2,000 years ago. I'm talking about experiencing God, Jesus in our life. We are so happy. We're in a postmodern society where we lift up knowledge above all else. We like to know about the Bible. We want to know about Jesus. But when it comes to us experiencing God, us having to change, us, our life having to be affected by what we learn, we would say, hang on a minute. I'm not ready for that. But we're happy to know about Jesus. As long as Jesus doesn't affect us so much, doesn't affect our Sunday so much, doesn't affect our money so much, doesn't affect our time so much, doesn't affect how I spend my time or money or whatever it is, then I'm fine with Jesus. These apostles, they are not afraid because they know Jesus. They've been with Jesus. The question for you and me this morning is this. Do you know about Jesus, or you been with Jesus? How do you know whether we just know about Jesus or whether we actually experience Jesus? Is this. When you read the scripture, when you hear God's word, do you keep it here in your head, or you apply it in your heart and you do it? Sometimes we read parts of the Bible and say, surely God doesn't want me to do that. Well, surely He does. It's in the Bible. So imagine the apostles to be arrested. Have you seen, I've seen so many clips like this where the authorities will just bark at the common people arrested just to threaten them. Even though they have no charge, but because they are in the interrogation room, right, handcuffed, and the authority will just bark at them, hoping they will get confession of some sort, right? They may not know anything, they may not have anything concrete proof to say the other person is guilty, but they would use that power to threaten so that the person would then confess. That's what happened here. The authority exercised their power over Peter, the uneducated, and John, the uneducated common man, to stop. Just stop. You're now arrested and thrown into prison. We could do much worse than this. You've seen Jesus, right? How we, crucified Him. Does that deter the apostles? Quite the opposite. So let's look at verse 16. Because the logic tells us they should be afraid. The circumstances tell us they should be afraid. The world today that you and I living in is telling us you should be afraid for living out the truth, for living out what you believe, for living out Christian belief. You should be very afraid. If you want to do that, that's fine. Keep it to yourself. Keep it quiet. Don't bring it to work. Just shut it. So that's the logic. Let's look at verse 16 and 18. What shall we do with this man? So this is the authorities. They're the one who's afraid here, you see. What shall we do with them? For a notable sign has been performed through them, is evident to all the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and we cannot deny it, that it happened. But in order that it may spread no further among the people, let us warn them to speak no more to anyone in his name, in this name. So they called them and charged them not to speak or teach at all in the name of Jesus. So they were the ones who were threatened and afraid. Not Peter and John. To be specific, they're not afraid of Peter and John. They're afraid of what? They're happy to release Peter and John because Peter and John is no threat to them. It's not Peter and John is the problem. But what they're proclaiming is the problem for them. So they say, you can go, but just shut it. So they need to be more specific. They're afraid of the gospel message that these two guys are proclaiming. These Christians are proclaiming. Why? Why are they so afraid of proclaiming that Jesus is Lord, his death, and he's died, and now resurrected? Why is that such a threat to them? Why is it such a threat to you to not proclaim it wherever you are? Think about it. It's the very same reason that these authorities do not want the message to be proclaimed. Why is it that stopped you from being bold in your proclamation of the gospel, of what you believe? Because something is threatened in your life. Because we know what we worship, we can know what we worship by observing, by looking deeply of our fear. So if you want to know what you truly worship, Jesus or something else, look at what you are fearful of. When you are afraid to proclaim the truth from God's word, what is being threatened in your life that stopped you from doing so? For the leaders and the authorities, what are they afraid of? They were afraid of losing their power and influence. So they say, Peter and John, stop proclaiming this, because you are threatening our authority, our influence, our power over the people. They love their power. They love their influence over people. But when people start to hear the news that Jesus is Lord, that he died and now resurrected, people are going from being fearful of the authorities, being influenced by authority. They now want to go and follow Jesus. When Peter first preached, 3,000 came to believe. Now in chapter 4, it says more being added. There are now 5,000 of them. There's a trend here. The authorities know this is no good for us, no good for our power and authority. What good it is to be a leader, to be a politician when no one want to listen to you, right? That's what being threatened. That's what they're fear of, being fearful of. They have power and influence, then they want more. They do not want less. when you look at their fear, we know what they worship, don't we? What do they worship? They worship power, they worship influence, they seek power, they seek influence. Now ask yourself, when you are not bold, when you're afraid in proclaiming the truth, what is it that you are seeking? What is it that you are fearful of losing? Is it that your boss may not like you? Your friend may despise you? Or perhaps the people that you look up to may think that you're such an idiot for believing the Bible? For such an uneducated, unscientific, low person for believing the miracles? What is it that you're afraid of? Because that is truly what you seek and you worship in your heart. You may come on Sunday, you may say you're a Christian, but when you do that, you're afraid of whatever that is that you're afraid of, that you're seeking, that you worship, more than you're afraid of Jesus and worshiping Jesus. See, the gospel message is always a threat to a comfortable existence. Always a threat. For some of us, we don't like it because it's a threat to our lazy Sunday, chilling on the couch, watching Netflix for 6 hours. For some of us, the gospel message is a threat for a comfortable plan for a month-long holiday somewhere beautiful on the other side of the world. Surely, Jesus, I cannot be that generous, because if I do, I have to cut short my holiday. Because if I do, I may not have a job. Whatever it is, the gospel message will always shake any comfortable existence in your life. And we don't like it. That's why we're afraid. So, this is the same reason why the leaders, the political leaders, the religious leaders arrested Peter and John, right? Because we're just like them. We love to be loved by others. We love others to respect us and look up to us. When your colleague, your friend, your boss thinks like, man, you're a smart person, highly educated, the last thing you want to give them is the idea that you're Christians a Bible-believing Christians who believe in Jesus and miracles, that when you die, you'll be with Jesus. That's the last thing you want to tell them, because you love their approval so much more. We want people to see that we are smart, that we are logical. I'm not saying to be Christian is to be illogical. I'm not saying that at all. In fact, we are more logical than those who are opposing the truth in the Bible. Because love those people. If you don't believe in the Bible, ask yourself, why don't you believe in the Bible? Is it because you have looked into the truth claims of the Bible and say, I've done all I can. I've looked at all the claims of the scripture and what Jesus said, and I can tell you with quite a high certainty that they are not true. I can tell you, most people will say, I don't have time for that. So that's why I like to say, for those people who oppose Christianity, who oppose what the Bible says, they need more faith. Just like to look at this keyboard beside us and say, well, there's no one who really made that. It just happened. Yeah, it just happened. So all these materials, all this color, the fact that you can make sound, it just happened by accident. You know, the big wind come one day, take a bit of plastic from the air and just mold it together, And after 100 million years, it becomes a keyboard. It just happened. It takes more faith to believe in that than to say, actually, there's someone who made this. And that's the claim of the Bible. To say that we are the illogical, like our faith is blind, is actually quite the opposite. Quite the opposite. Now, finally, what must we do then? Right? We want to be bold. We're not bold. We don't want to be afraid like the political leaders, but we are. We are. We are afraid. We are afraid to share what we have. If you want to share, we want to share a little bit what we have. If you want to love Jesus, you want to go for the proclamation of the gospel, we want to do it in a safe, measured, intelligent, smart way. Right? We want to be bold. We're not. We don't want to be afraid, but we are. What must we do as Christians? But see, some Christian thinks that to be bold is to condemn everyone that is not Christian, who don't believe what we believe. But I already said, that's like a teenager 30 who thinks to be brave is to beat people up. That's not how you do, that's not what it means to be a bold and brave Christian. You don't go on a busy street and train station and call people to repent and say, you've seen this, right? They just have signs and say like, repent or you'll go to hell. Do you think that works? Or to just put signs on, or in the face of people that in a group of people that you don't like or don't agree with you, and scream down and shouting down condemnation. Do you think that's what it is to be bold, to be brave? I don't think it is. Perhaps there's some place for that, but I doubt it is the right kind of boldness that the Bible is calling Christians for. Okay? So the last thing I want to do is to say, Pastor Ferdy said we got to be bold. So after this, I'm going to stand outside and start preaching to all the passerbys, calling them to repent, and say, if you're not, you're going to go to hell. Let me tell you, you may feel good about yourself after you did that, but it does no one any good. Do you think they'll hear you? They'll listen to you? They'll hate you. They'll think you're an idiot. And that's not a loving thing to do. The reason the apostle proclaimed the truth is because the apostle loved these people. And the apostles want to convince these people that this is the truth. I'm doing this for your sake. I'm not doing this to tell you you are wrong and I'm right. That's not the point, you see. Sometimes we do it, Christians, because we want to prove that we are right and they're wrong. That's not the point. That's not the point. So it's not about being violent, being aggressive. It's not. But by the same token, if your life is comfortable, overly comfortable, there's no persecution in your life, right? No one's against you or what you believe, then perhaps you're a coward. Do you see what I'm saying? At one point, I don't think the boldness that the Bible calls for is to be violent, to be shouting in people's face. I don't think that. But by the same token, if no one ever disagree with you or hate you or persecute you for what you believe, perhaps you are a coward. Perhaps you've never taken any risk in your proclamation of what you believe in your life, in sharing the gospel. You just keep it to yourself, being safe. I got a good job, I got good friends that love me. I'm going to keep it that way. I'm going to keep it comfortable and peaceful. If that's you, then you're living not as a bold Christian, but as a coward Christian. Let me highlight this. I'm not saying this for you to go out there and just be nuts, okay? Be aggressive, be insensitive, bulldoze everyone that don't agree with you. That's not what I want. And I don't think that's biblical. I'm not asking you to be that. If you're a Christian, and all your life, and in all your life, you are arguing with others and attacking others for they have different sets of view and belief in your life and opinion, then the persecution, the hatred that comes your way is not because of gospel boldness. It's because you're just being an idiot. Because of your aggressive, because of your insensitivity. That's what got you persecuted. That's what got you all the hate. Do you see this? Do you understand what I'm talking about? A bold Christian is not the one that is keep everything to himself, but also at the same time not the one who's just bulldoze everyone, being insensitive, you see. Because there are Christians who are like that, who just bulldoze anyone with their opinions, and they're being persecuted, being hated, and they say, oh, I'm sacrificing my life for Jesus. I say to those people, no, you're not. You're just being an idiot, being insensitive to people. There's a sense of arrogance. When you look at the apostles, there's no arrogance in their exclusive claim of Jesus. There's humility, an attitude of servitude, not overpowering. So it's not about seeking persecution, okay? I'm not saying, you have a comfortable life, you're being a coward, so go out there and seek persecution. That's not the point. That's not the point. Jesus said this in Matthew 5, 11 to 12. Blessed are you when others revile you and persecute you and utter all kinds of evil against you falsely on my account. Rejoice and be glad, for your reward is great in heaven. For so they persecuted the prophets who were before you. And again, in Matthew 10, 22. And you will be hated by all for my name's sake. But the one who endures to the end will be saved. Notice, again, Jesus said, you'll be persecuted on my account. You'll be persecuted and hated for my name's sake. So when you're being an idiot and being aggressive and insensitive to people, you're doing it for your own sake. To tell people I'm right, you're wrong. I know more than you. I'm better than you. That's why people hate you, persecute you, not because of your gospel boldness, but because of your insensitivity towards others. Now let me give you a quote from Tim Keller, just because I cannot say it as beautifully and as well as he is. So I'm going to quote. He said this, quote, insensitive, harsh Christians get persecution, but not praise. Cowardly Christians, they get praise, but not persecution. Those are the coward. They get praise. You get praise at work, you get praised by your friends, being very sensitive, for keeping your faith to your own, but you're not praised. But there's no persecution. You get praise, but not persecution. And Tim Keller says this: weak Christians, they get neither. You don't get praised, you don't get persecuted. That's weak Christians. But Christians who are closest with Jesus will get both persecution and praise, just as Jesus did. Which one are you? Boldness and fearfulness, we get this from what we believe and see as beautiful in our life. Both being bold, your fear, and your strength, they come from what you see as beautiful and precious in your life. For the political leaders, they see power and influence as beautiful. And that's why they acted in fear when their picture of perfection, of beauty, having power and influence is being threatened. Now the apostles, though, they see Christ Jesus as beautiful. And this resulted in their boldness in proclaiming the truth. Because to them, that is a loving thing to do. Why is it a loving thing to do? If Jesus' claim is true, that he's the way, the truth, and the life, no one comes to the Father except through me, Jesus said. If that is true, that means you have the cure for cancer, and yet if you're not proclaiming it, you're not sharing it, you're keeping it to yourself, you basically look at your neighbor who's dying of cancer and say, well, I got a cure, but I want to be tolerant. I don't want to share this with you. The Apostle Paul says that's unloving. The Apostle John and Peter, all the apostles, all the early Christians see that as being unloving. The most loving thing to do that they have, they were poor. For them, the most loving thing that they can do is to share the most precious thing that they have. That's Jesus. So the apostles' boldness come from beholding the beauty of Jesus. In the garden, when Jesus sensed his death was coming, he prayed to his Father. So before Jesus was crucified, he prayed in the garden to his Father. He prayed this, Father, in Luke 22, Father, if you're willing, remove this cup, remove this suffering, remove this crucifixion that is coming from me. Nevertheless, not my will, but yours be done. This is all of Jesus Christ being afraid in the garden. And this honesty, looking at the rawness of their Lord's heart, emboldened the apostles. It doesn't weaken them, but strengthen them. Jesus came to die for them. If it's easy for Jesus, if this is a piece of cake, if I'm going to do it, then perhaps the apostles will not see this as something that will strengthen them. Except for one or two apostles and early Christians, founders of Christianity, apart from one or two, all of them died, martyred, been killed, beheaded, hanged, chopped to pieces, all of them. Peter, Paul, James, John is one of the few that live till the old age, being exiled in prison, well, in an island, in prison. What gives them such boldness is because they see the vulnerability of their Lord in the garden. Yet, however fearful Jesus was in crucifixion, not the physical crucifixion that made Lord Jesus pray this, but the separation with God the Father that he cannot endure. When you love someone so much, when you've been with someone so long, to be separated, it's painful. The longer you have been with someone, the more intimate and more loving you have been in relations with that someone, the more painful it is to be separated. Now imagine God the Father and Jesus. They've been with eternity together in perfect loving relationship together. On the cross, that has to be separated. Never in Jesus' life, Jesus has to pray to his Father in any other way than calling my Father, whom I love, except on the cross. On the cross was the first time Jesus cried, my God, my God. Never heard that before. It's always referred to God the Father as his beloved Father. But on the cross, he was separated from his loving Father, who's been with him in love, perfect loving relationship for eternity long. Yet he gone through that for your sake. Now, throughout histories, though, Christians have been accused of being bigots, being oppressors, especially when Christians were the majority. They oppress the non-believers. They persecute them. Yes, Christians have done all those awful things. But can you say the same about Jesus, whom we worship? Did he come to oppress people? Did he come to oppress those he did not agree with? He came to die for them. To those who persecute him, he say like, Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they're doing. That's all. That's Jesus. That's Christianity. So to accuse Jesus of being exclusive is ignorant, because there's no one under the sun that is more inclusive than Jesus. In the days where women are oppressed, are second-class citizens, when women's witness account are never valid, in the Bible, the first group of people who witnessed Jesus' resurrection were women. So to accuse Jesus of being a bigot, being exclusive, ignorant, or being an exclusive, it's an ignorant thing to say. The world is saying this because this is the doctrine of the world. How can you be good? How can you be safe? If you're being a good citizen, isn't it? If you pay your tax, if you don't do anything unlawful, if you just do good, be a good citizen, regardless of what you believe, you'll be safe. Now that is an exclusive and intolerant statement. You're being exclusive. How? Because you will exclusive bad people. Right? You will second-class criminals, prostitutes, sinners. But Jesus said, I died for sinners. I died for prostitutes. I died for criminals. And yet, you accuse Jesus of being exclusive and being a bigot? See, the gospel message, yes, is exclusively found in Jesus. That's true. That's the gospel message. The gospel message is exclusively found, that salvation is found exclusively in Jesus. Yet, the message is inclusive for all people. There's no other religion under the sun that has such an inclusive message and hope for every single person. Or any other religions. You want to be saved, you better be good. If you want to be saved, you better be generous. If you want to be saved, you better sacrifice this or that. That's exclusive. But that's not the gospel message. The gospel message says, we don't have to be good because our good Lord Savior died for sinners like us. He took the place where we should be. That is on the cross crucified. He took the place in your place and my place. And that strengthened and emboldened the apostles and the early Christians. When they see sick people on the streets, this is before there's antibiotics, before there's any medications that they can save them. If you have fever in those days, you might die. And in those days, Christians, instead of saying, get away from me, I don't want to get sick and die, they take them home and care for them. And instead they say, I'm happy to die on your behalf. Where do they get that kind of break free from the cross, you see. Because the great Savior, who has everything, left that behind and died on the cross for them. And there's nothing more inclusive than that. So don't let people tell you that to be a Christian is to be bigoted and exclusive. It's not. It's the most inclusive and most loving thing that we have in the world. We can be bold, therefore, in the gospel because it is true and because Christ truly died and crucified and resurrected from the dead. To keep it from others, it is unloving. To keep it from others, it is unloving. To keep it just for yourself, to keep your faith and your belief just for yourself, is unloving. So only when you see Jesus died for all, in order to make his case, can you speak boldly